So, I'm coming home, right? Groceries in my arms, trying not to break my freaking neck on my own goddamn driveway, because why? Because the freaking HOA has a problem with, wait for it, water! You believe this crap? I almost went down, man. Arms flailing, eggs probably everywhere, the whole 9 yards. But I saved it. I'm like a freaking ninja, okay? A middle-aged, slightly out-of-shape ninja, but still. And for what? So I can get a freaking letter from these HOA clowns complaining about my driveway being too slippery? Too slippery? It's a freaking driveway. It gets wet when it rains. What am I supposed to do, huh? Put up a caution wet sign every time there's a goddamn cloud in the sky? Hire a freaking driveway attendant to squeegee it dry? These people? I swear to God. I'm Frank, by the way. Frank Reynolds. And I'm just a regular guy, you know? I work, I pay my taxes, I try to be a decent neighbor. I just want to come home, park my freaking car in my own goddamn driveway, and not bust my ass because some HOA pencil pusher has a problem with precipitation. My driveway, for the record, is a driveway. It's concrete. It's got a slight slope to it, nothing crazy. Yeah, maybe it gets a little slick when it rains. So does every other freaking driveway in the world. It's called physics, people. Water makes things slippery. I live in Harmony Heights Estates. Catchy, right? Sounds peaceful. Sounds harmonious. It's a freaking lie, man. It's a war zone of perfectly manicured lawns, matching mailboxes, and HOA regulations. And this ain't my first rodeo with these clowns. Oh no, I've been battling these HOA morons since I moved in. First it was my freaking mailbox. Too modern. Then it was my garbage cans. Not aesthetically pleasing. I even got a freaking warning about my wind chimes, for Christ's sake. Disturbing the peace, they said. The peace of what? The freaking silence? But this driveway thing, this is a whole new level of stupid. It all started with him, Stanley freaking Priss. This guy, he's like the HOA's enforcer, you know? The hall monitor all grown up, still patrolling the neighborhood, looking for any excuse to write somebody up. He's got this clipboard, right? Always with the freaking clipboard. And this smug look on his face, like he's single-handedly upholding the freaking fabric of society by measuring grass blades and checking mailbox colors. So Priss shows up at my door, looking all official, and tells me my driveway is a significant safety hazard. A hazard? Excessively slippery when wet, he says, reading from his freaking clipboard. Potential liability for the HOA. Residents could slip, fall, injure themselves. He even mentioned the mail carriers. It's a driveway, I yelled at him. It gets wet when it rains, Stanley. What do you want me to do, huh? Put a freaking roof over it? Hire a team of squirrels with tiny little squeegees? Priss just stared at me, all blank-faced and condescending. You need to remediate the situation, Mr. Miller, he says. We suggest a non-slip coating, or perhaps textured paint. Textured paint? For a driveway? Are you freaking kidding me? So, of course, I gotta go to one of these goddamn HOA meetings. You ever been to one of these things? It's like a freaking cult meeting, only instead of chanting and sacrificing goats, they're arguing about freaking driveways. The meeting's in the community center, which is basically a glorified storage room with folding chairs and a coffee maker that probably hasn't been cleaned since the freaking Carter administration. And there they are, the HOA board, the gatekeepers of good taste, the arbiters of all things. Beige. And front and center, leading the charge, is Brenda. Brenda B. freaking Busybody, president of the HOA. This woman, she's like the queen of all Karens. She's got this permanent scowl, like she's constantly smelling something bad. And she's always wearing these reflective vests, like she's directing traffic or something. She lives for this crap, man. She thrives on enforcing these pointless, asinine rules. Mr. Miller, Brenda says, her voice all sweet and syrupy, but you can hear the steel underneath. Your driveway has become a matter of grave concern. Grave concern? It's a freaking driveway, Brenda. It's dangerous, Mr. Miller, she continues. Negligent. A liability lawsuit waiting to happen. She even brought in some safety expert, some dude in a hard hat who looked like he had never seen a wet driveway in his freaking life. This guy's up there showing slides of people slipping and falling, talking about coefficient of friction and potential for injury. It was a freaking circus. It's a driveway, Brenda, I yelled, losing my cool. It gets wet. People might slip. It's called life. What am I supposed to do, huh? Ban rain in Harmony Heights? Maybe we should all just live in freaking bubbles. The other board members, they're all just staring at their freaking shoes, avoiding eye contact. They're all terrified of Brenda, see? She rules this place with an iron fist, and a whole lot of freaking rules. Except for this one guy, younger dude, kinda smirking. I think he gets it. Mr. Miller, Brenda says, her voice getting all tight and screechy. We are simply concerned about the safety of our residents, and your driveway is not safe. So, what do you want me to do? I ask, knowing it's going to be something stupid. You need to remediate the situation, she says, like she's talking to a freaking child. You need to make your driveway less slippery. Less slippery, I repeat, trying to keep from laughing. Okay, sure, I'll just call up Mother Nature and tell her to turn down the freaking rain. Or maybe I'll just, I don't know, pave it with velvet. Would that be harmonious enough for you, Brenda? She slams her little gavel down. Mr. Miller, you will address this issue. You will make your driveway safe. You have 2 weeks, and you are hereby fined. Fined for a wet driveway, these people. I swear, I walked out of that meeting ready to explode. 2 weeks, huh? Fine, 2 weeks. Brenda Busybody and her band of HOA goons thought they could tell me what to do with my own goddamn driveway. They had another thing coming. They wanted safe, huh? They wanted non-slippery. Oh, I'd give 'em non-slippery. I'd give 'em something they'd never forget. It was on. Remediate the slippery condition. That's what the freaking letter said. Like my driveway was some kind of biohazard, a toxic spill, a slip and slide of doom. I read it again, just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Nope, still there. Remediate. Like I was supposed to perform some kind of freaking exorcism on my concrete. Okay, fine. I'm a reasonable guy, right? I tried. I briefly considered the reasonable solutions. Non-slip coatings, textured paint. Maybe some of those little grippy things you put in your bathtub. I even looked up the prices online. These people, I swear to God, I ranted to myself, pacing my kitchen. They're gonna make me lose my freaking mind. It's a driveway. It gets wet when it rains. What do they want, huh? Bubble wrap? Do they want me to hire a freaking driveway attendant to stand there with a leaf blower every time it drizzles? Maybe I should just install a goddamn roof over the whole thing. Or maybe I should just move to the freaking desert where it never rains. Then they'd be happy, right? No water, no slippery surfaces. Just sand. And beige. Lots of beige. I slammed my laptop shut. It was no use. I knew deep down that nothing I did would ever satisfy Brenda Busybody and her band of HOA control freaks. They didn't want a solution, they wanted compliance. They wanted me to bow down, to kiss their freaking rings, to admit that my driveway was a menace to society. And that I was not gonna do. I needed a new plan, a better plan, a plan so insane, so over the top, so utterly them, that it would make their heads spin. And, as usual, my weapon of choice was the HOA bylaws. That frickin' Bible of beige, that testament to tyranny that, well, you get the idea. I grabbed the document, a cup of coffee, black, because I was not about to let the HOA dictate my creamer choices, and started digging. I skimmed through sections on landscaping, on exterior modifications, on Freaking flagpole regulations. Seriously, who has time to write this crap? And then, I saw it. A glimmer of hope. A loophole so beautiful, so freaking perfect, that I almost wept with joy. It was in the section on driveway maintenance and usage. There were rules about the surface of the driveway, about keeping it clean and free of cracks. There were rules about parking, about the types of vehicles allowed. But, and this was the key, there was nothing, not a single goddamn word, about recreational use of driveways. As long as it didn't create a permanent obstruction or violate noise ordinances, I could, theoretically, do whatever the hell I wanted on my own freaking driveway. There was also a section about encouraging recreation. Recreational use, I muttered, a slow, evil grin spreading across my face. Oh, I'll give him recreational use. The idea hit me like a ton of bricks, or rather, like a ton of plywood, and lumber, and paint, and hay bales. I wasn't just going to remediate my slippery driveway, I was going to transform it. I was going to turn it into a freaking attraction, a destination, a soapbox derby track. Yeah, you heard me right, a soapbox derby track. It was perfect. It was insane. It was exactly the kind of over-the-top, ridiculously defiant response that this situation called for. My slippery driveway, the source of all this HOA drama, would become a winding, curving track, complete with ramps, obstacles, and maybe even a freaking finish line banner. I'd build it out of plywood and lumber, paint it in bright, bold colors, definitely not beige, and make it the most epic, most unforgettable, most HOA infuriating driveway in the history of Harmony Heights Estates. And I'd argue, with a perfectly straight face, that it was a temporary recreational enhancement designed to promote community engagement and healthy outdoor activity. And of course, to make my driveway less slippery by adding traction. I mean, who could argue with that? I could already picture Brenda Busybody's reaction. The apoplectic rage, the sputtering disbelief, the vein in her forehead throbbing like a freaking bass drum. It was a beautiful image, man. Beautiful. All right, I said to myself, rubbing my hands together. Let's build a freaking racetrack. First, permits. Always gotta cover your ass, right? Even when you're about to engage in an act of epic HOA trolling, you gotta make sure you're not actually breaking any real laws. So, I went down to City Hall, explained my, project to a very confused clerk, and, surprisingly, walked out with the necessary permits. Turns out, as long as my temporary recreational structure didn't obstruct the sidewalk or create a public hazard, I was good to go. Next, I needed a builder. Someone who wouldn't look at me like I was completely insane when I explained my vision. I found him online, a local handyman named, yep, you guessed it, Bob. Seriously, is there some kinda contractor law that says you gotta be named Bob? Bob's website had pictures of decks, patios, fences, and one glorious photo of a small homemade ramp he'd built for his kid's skateboard. Bingo. So, let me get this straight, Bob said, staring at my very rough sketch of the proposed soapbox derby track. You want to turn your driveway into a racetrack for soapbox cars? Exactly, I said, nodding enthusiastically. Think winding curves. Think ramps. Think obstacles. Think the most epic HOA-defying driveway in the history of suburbia. Bob stared at me for a minute, his eyes wide. Then he burst out laughing. You're freaking nuts, man, he said, shaking his head. I love it, but why? Let's just say, I said with a grin, I have a disagreement with my HOA, and this is my way of resolving it. I told him the whole story. The slippery driveway, the freaking ruler, Brenda Busybody and her beige obsession, the whole 9 yards. Lady, Bob said, shaking his head in disbelief, you got a problem, and you, sir, have the best solution to that problem I have ever seen in my life. So you're in? Hell yeah, I'm in. When do we start? And so, Operation Soapbox Supremacy commenced. We started with the layout. My driveway thankfully had that slight slope, which was perfect for, gravity. We marked out a winding, curving track using spray paint and stakes. Then came the lumber. Plywood, 2x4s, the whole shebang. We built ramps, banked curves, and even a few little jumps for the truly adventurous. We added obstacles, hay bales for safety, and also because they looked freaking hilarious, traffic cones borrowed from a construction site, don't ask, and even a tunnel made out of a giant cardboard box. It was a mess, man. A glorious, beautiful, chaotic mess. And it was loud, saws buzzing, hammers banging, Bob yelling instructions, and occasionally cursing. It was a symphony of destruction, or rather, construction. The neighbors, of course, were intrigued. They'd come out of their houses drawn by the noise and the sheer WTF-ness of it all. They'd stand there on the sidewalk, staring at my driveway-turned racetrack, their mouths hanging open, looking like they'd just witnessed a freaking alien landing. "What the hell is he doing?" I heard one whisper. "Is that a racetrack?" another asked. "He's finally lost it," a third said, shaking his head. And of course there was the HOA inspection. Mr. Prissypants himself showing up with his freaking clipboard and his smug little face. "Mr. Miller!" he yelled, looking like he was about to have a stroke. "What is the meaning of this?" "It's a temporary recreational structure, Mr. Prissypants," I said, all calm and innocent. "For community engagement and healthy outdoor activity, and," I added with a wink, "it makes the driveway a lot less slippery." Prissypants just stared at me, speechless. He looked at the track, at the ramps, at the hay bales, at the freaking cardboard tunnel. Then he looked at my building permit, which I'd conveniently taped to one of the ramps. Then he looked back at me. This, he sputtered. "This is unacceptable." "It's temporary, Mr. Prissypants," I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "And it's for recreation. You got a problem with recreation, pal?" He knew he was beat. He mumbled something about further review and stomped off, looking like he was about to cry. Victory! And as I watched that freaking racetrack take shape, man, I felt good. I felt vindicated. I felt like I was finally sticking it to the man, to the HOA, to Brenda freaking Busybody. This wasn't just a driveway anymore. It was a statement, a symbol of defiance, a freaking soapbox derby track in the middle of suburbia, and it was gonna be epic. The completion of Slippery Slope Speedway, yes, I named my driveway Soapbox Derby Track, was a moment of pure, unadulterated, childish glee. It was magnificent. It was ridiculous. It was everything I'd freaking hoped for. The plywood was painted in bright, bold colors. The ramps were relatively sturdy. The hay bales were mostly strategically placed. And the whole freaking thing screamed, "Take that, Brenda Busybody!" And oh boy, did Brenda take it. She showed up, predictably, looking like a thundercloud in a pantsuit, steam practically coming out of her ears. I swear, I could hear her blood pressure going through the roof. "What the hell is this?" she roared, pointing a shaky finger at my masterpiece. I was standing at the top of the track wearing a helmet, safety first, people, and holding a checkered flag, because of course I had a checkered flag. "Afternoon, Brenda," I said, all calm and cool, like I wasn't about to unleash holy hell on her HOA-loving soul. "Admiring my recreational enhancement?" "Recreational enhancement?" she screeched. This is unbelievable. You turned your driveway into a death trap." "It's a soapbox derby track, Brenda," I explained, like I was talking to a freaking toddler. Promotes community engagement, gets the kids outside. You know, exercise, fresh air. Remember those things? It's insane, Miller, she yelled. It's dangerous. It's ugly. It's temporary, Brenda, I countered, tapping my foot on the plywood. Easily removable. And I might add, it makes the driveway a lot less slippery. You know, solves that whole hazard problem you were so freaking worried about. You did this on purpose, she accused, her voice reaching a pitch I didn't think was humanly possible. I improved my property, Brenda, I said with a shrug, and I did it all legally. Now, if you'll excuse me, I gotta test the track. I grabbed a nearby Soapbox car, a brightly painted, ridiculously aerodynamic contraption built by yours truly. And, with a wink to a couple of kids who'd gathered to watch, I pushed off. The ride was exhilarating. The wind whipped through my hair, what's left of it anyway. The wheels rattled on the plywood, and I swear I could feel Brenda's rage burning a hole in my back. I even managed to get some air on one of the ramps, landing with a slightly jarring thud. "See, Brenda?" I yelled as I coasted to a stop. "Perfectly safe, fun for the whole freaking family." Brenda just stood there, speechless, her mouth open and closing like a freaking goldfish. Then, she turned and stomped off, muttering about lawyers and lawsuits and the imminent collapse of Western civilization. The emergency HOA meeting, Part 2, the downhill debacle, was, as expected, a freaking three-ring circus. Brenda, looking like she hadn't slept in days, probably because she'd been too busy picturing my driveway exploding, went full-on nuclear. The HOA, of course, already changed the rules to try and take care of it. But it wouldn't work. This slippery slope speedway, she declared, her voice shaken with fury, is an affront to everything Harmony Heights Estate stands for. It's a safety hazard. It's an eyesore. It's encouraging recklessness. She'd even brought in a safety inspector, some guy in a hard hat who looked suspiciously like her pool boy, who testified about the inherent dangers of Soapbox cars and the potential for serious injury. Then it was my turn. Time for the Bill Burr defense, baby. "Brenda," I said, standing up and addressing the board, who, by the way, looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. Seems to think I built this thing just to piss her off. And, yeah, okay, that's part of it. But I also built it because it's freaking fun. Remember fun, people? Remember when you were kids? I went on, laying it all out. I cited the previous bylaws, the ones in effect when I'd started construction, showing them that I'd followed every freaking rule about driveway surfaces. I argued that the track was a temporary recreational structure, not a permanent modification. I even had freaking testimonials from some of the neighborhood kids, talking about how much they loved the track, how it got them outside, away from their screens and, you know, exercising. And besides, I added with a wink, it's way less slippery now, problem solved, right? The board members, they were losing it. Some of them were trying not to laugh. Others were looking at Brenda like she'd grown a second head. And this one lady, bless her heart, even leaned over and whispered, "Can I try it?" Then, a guy in the back stands up. He's a freaking firefighter, lives down the street. "Look," he says, "I checked out the track. It's got hay bales, padding. It's safer than half the playgrounds in this town. And honestly, it looks like a hell of a lot of fun." That was it. Game over, Brenda. The board, seeing the writing on the wall, and probably terrified of getting sued, voted to do nothing. They couldn't retroactively enforce the rule. Brenda's authority freaking demolished. The meeting ended with her screaming about the apocalypse and me walking out with a grin so big it hurt my freaking face. But Brenda, she ain't the type to give up easy. Oh no, this was just the beginning. The derby days were upon us. And Brenda, she was like a freaking supervillain trying everything to shut me down. She filed complaints with the city, Zoning violations, noise complaints, safety hazards. The city inspectors? They came, they saw, they shrugged. "Looks like fun," one of them even said, giving me a wink. She tried to get a petition going. Went door to door trying to get people to sign this thing saying my track was a menace to society. You know how many signatures she got? 3. And one of them was her cat. She even tried to sabotage the track. One night I caught her on my security cameras, sneaking around with a freaking bag of marbles trying to, I don't even know, make it more slippery. I got that footage, by the way. It's going on YouTube for sure, but I was ready for her. I was always ready. I started hosting official Harmony Heights Estates Soapbox Derby races. Trophies, prizes, the whole 9 yards. I even had a category for Most Ridiculous HOA Complaint, which, surprisingly, was a very popular category. I invited local businesses to sponsor the races, got the local pizza place to donate pizzas, the ice cream shop to give out free cones. It was a freaking community event, man. I put up a website, social media, everything. Pictures of the track, videos of the races, interviews with the kids. It was getting coverage, man. Local news, the whole deal. And just to mess with Brenda, I installed a neighborhood watch system, using the Soapbox Derby track as a freaking lookout tower. I put up a sign that said, "Neighborhood watch on a roll." It was a freaking war, I tell you. A war fought with plywood, paint, and pure, unadulterated spite. And I was winning. Brenda was losing it. The neighborhood was loving it. And my driveway? My driveway was a freaking legend.